This is the three-country point. It is a place where the borders of the Netherlands, Belgium and Germany meet. What not many people know is that this three-country point used to be a four-country point. This is the story of one of the lost European micronations. The story involves three of Europe's favorite hobbies: corruption, gambling and drawing up borders because of the discovery of natural resources. I would like to wish you a warm welcome to the smuggler's den, prostitution endorsing, gambling resort, Esperanto promoting, tax haven and draft dodging micronation of neutral Moresnet. To start off, let's take a look at the passport of this country. Neutral Moresnet was officially named the undivided country of Moresnet. Its population at conception in 1816 consisted of 256 people and around 3,432 at its end in 1920. Even though it is a small country, it had over 5 official languages, being German, French, Dutch, Calmees Plat, a form of Plat Dutch, which is a dialect from the border areas between the Netherlands, Belgium and Germany, and even the artificial language of Esperanto spoken in this country. Esperanto is a language which was specifically designed to bring unification to Europe and actually the entire world. It bears elements from many languages, both the Latin and Germanic ones. I might cover this story soon, so keep tabs on the channel if you would like to learn more about that. For now, let's return to neutral Moresnet. Its currencies were the French franc, the Belgian franc and Rijksmark. The capital of neutral Moresnet was Calmees, a town currently in Belgium. The flag was a 3-band with from top to bottom black, white and blue. Its coat of arms sports the flags of Belgium, the Netherlands and Germany, as well as 2 lions and a representation of the three-country point. The country had a surface of roughly 3.5 square kilometer, or 345 acres. Perhaps the most interesting part is the rule of government. Neutral Moresnet was a condominium, which means so much as a state of shared sovereignty. I promise it will become more clear as we go through the history of this interesting country. Those who were paying a bit of attention might already have an educated guess about the history of this nation. Its conception was in 1816, 1 year after Napoleon's definite defeat, and it ends in 1920, shortly after the Treaty of Versailles made a formal end to the First World War. 2 important moments in shaping the European nations we know today. So let's start our story in 1815 in Waterloo. Napoleon's reign over Europe had finally come to an end. After earlier defeats and an exile, a Dutch-British collaboration was able to defeat him at Waterloo and Europe had to be redrawn. All European nations gathered in Vienna, and among other changes, the Kingdom of the 7 United Netherlands was conceived. It consisted roughly of what is now the Netherlands and Belgium combined. This country bordered France in the south and Prussia in the east. The United Netherlands and Prussia could not get an accordance about a zinc mine between their countries, however. So after bickering back and forth, in 1816 they signed the Treaty of Aachen, creating a neutral state. They took the name of the town in the middle of the small state, emphasized the territory's neutrality, and voila, neutral Moresnet was born. In the beginning, the country was probably more shrouded in mystery than it is right now. The idea that the neutrality was a temporary solution, that a commission between the United Netherlands and Prussia would be set up, but that commission never came to be. Instead, the 2 countries appointed 2 commissaries who did not seem to care about the country all that much. They only met a few times in person, hardly ever visited their small country, and only communicated via post. They appointed a few mayors from nearby towns to rule the country together. And the mine, well, 3 years prior to the conceiving of the country, a businessman by the name of Mosselman had bought the mine, saving it from bankruptcy. He appointed the local mayors as the secretaries of the mine as well. And so, the little country was shrouded in corruption from the start. Nobody knew exactly to who they would owe which tax or whether the young men of the nation were obliged to any military service. And a lot of these questions were unclear throughout the entire history of the country. The mayors decided upon German as the country's language and the Napoleonic civil code as its rule of law. And so it went on as a condominium, ruled by secretaries of 2 states, a few mayors and the owner of a zinc mine. This uncertainties made for neutral Moresnet to be a very popular destination for newcomers. People as tax evaders and draft dodgers were flocking to the tiny nation en masse. Remember the owner of the zinc mine, Mr. Musselman? Well, it turned out that, like nearly the entire country, he neither paid his dues to the states of Prussia and the United Seven Netherlands, and as they started to mention investigations against him, he decided to secretly sell his mine to the King of the Netherlands, under the condition that he would prevent any other legal actions to be undertaken against him. Meanwhile, the Belgians started a revolution, split off from the Netherlands, and took over their claim to the rule of neutral Moresnet. The country was not even 15 years old, and it had to officially, but also unofficially, abide by the rule of Belgium and Prussia, whilst its mine was owned by the Dutch king, and still nobody knew who to pay taxes to. Talking about bureaucracy. After its turbulent start, the country gained some relative stability, meaning the chaos had gotten a bit less. Prussia and the Netherlands forged a plan to divide and dissipate the country, but for unknown reasons it was never executed. Perhaps because Belgium was not invited in the plan? As the Industrial Revolution gained traction, the ask for zinc was greater than ever, and the country made lots of money. Still being a tax haven, it attracted people from all over, until the mine got depleted in 1886. What would drive its economy now? Right around the same time as the mine depleted, an independence movement started to take form in a small country of Moresnet, led by a doctor and mayor Wilhelm Molly. The country had a strange status. It wasn't independent, so it had no complete rule, but it also wasn't part of another country. Therefore, Mr. Molly started this movement to make the country completely independent from its neighbors. One of the first things he did was opening a post office and issuing national stamps, something which was forbidden and therefore undone by Belgium. And by now Prussia had ceased to exist and the country of Germany was the co-ruler, so Germany. Until this day, postal stamps of neutral Moresnet are amongst the most collectible in the world due to their rareness. Back to the problem of the zinc mine being depleted and the country needing a source of income. In the 19th and 20th century, gambling was enormously popular among the European people, but not among their governments. So as the people picked up the habit of gambling, their governments banned it one by one. Except for, you guessed it, neutral Moresnet. They were still abiding by the Napoleonic civil code, which said nothing about gambling. And so quickly, neutral Moresnet became one of Europe's most popular gambling destinations. For 2 weeks, because the German and Belgian police raided and closed the casino a mere 2 weeks after its opening. Those countries were afraid that tax evading, contraband dealing, prostitution endorsing, micronation would completely become uncontrollable. The last interesting episode in the country's history came from the same person, Mr. Molly. On his travels, he met a fanatic of the Esperanto movement by the name of Gustav Roy. Esperanto was an artificial language specifically made for a united Europe. It carried elements from both Latin and Germanic languages and was part of a broader idea or ideology. Think a bit along the lines of humanism. Mr. Molly became a great fan of the idea and even tried to change the name of his soon-to-be independent country from neutral Moresnet to Amikeio, which means place of friendship in Esperanto. As you guessed it, the neighbors didn't like it, so they stopped the idea quickly. As the First World War broke out, Germany was done with the micronation. At the beginning of the war, the Germans occupied the tiny nation. After the First World War ended and Germany had lost, when the next large redrawing of Europe took place, it was handed over to the Belgians, where it still is today. Unfortunately, in 2020, the last person who was born in the micronation passed away at the baffling age of 105, erasing the last living memory of this strange country. Here is a picture of her ID card, the last officially issued document recognizing the smuggler's den, prostitution endorsing, gambling resort, Esperanto promoting, tax haven, and draft dodging micronation of neutral Moresnet. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time in history.